So every year we typically have a team that has a rough start to the season, and this year one of those teams is the Vancouver Canucks. Now, just a little disclaimer, we're about 5 games into the season. Most teams have played 5 games. In fact, the Canucks have only played 4, so it's kind of difficult to identify a really bad start this early besides this one. This is horrendous, an absolutely horrendous start for Vancouver. Most teams have played 5, maybe 6 games at max, so obviously it's kind of difficult to track where teams are right now. I mean, some teams that have started off rough are Minnesota is definitely one of them. The Tampa Bay Lightning's another team that has started off rough, surprisingly. Obviously, teams like San Jose and Chicago, we expected them to be bad. They're bad, but, got teams like Vancouver, they weren't supposed to start this bad. And this is a team that, it's heading into another season. And last season showed a lot of potential. And they obviously fired Jim Benning, Travis Green. We said that so many times. This is the season where really maybe they should start improving. Because these past couple of years, they've had bad starts. And I think this plays a role. And this is yet again another bad start. But I will get into in a second here why I think this team can turn it around. So let's take a look at their last 4 games. Obviously, possibly one of the worst starts in NHL history, if we're being blatantly honest. Game 1 versus Edmonton. They lost 5-3, but they were up 2-0 in that game before losing 5-3. Obviously, McDavid came back, scored a 700 point. Things weren't looking so good early for the Oilers, though. Jack Campbell let in two goals on 2 shots. And Canucks were up 2-0, but the Oilers quickly rallied back to win the game. Now, it's the first game of the year. I wasn't thinking about it too much. I didn't watch the game because it was late at night, and I got school on the East Coast. School comes first, guys. But I didn't think much of it. I was like, all right, well, it's Edmonton. They're a really good team. And supposedly, Vancouver played pretty well 5-on-5, given the articles that I've read. Game 2 is where things showed a lot of concern. They lost 3-2 to the Philadelphia Flyers, and they were up 2-0 in that game. Now, the thing is with that is that, the Flyers were missing Sean Couturier, Cam Atkinson, and Ryan Ellis. So, 2 of their top 6 forwards and one of their top pairing defensemen. Now, Ellis isn't going to play for the whole year, so teams can't really use that excuse anymore. But still, to the Canucks, that is unacceptable. And I thought it was okay. Well, some teams have bad starts. They're 0-2. It stinks, but it happens. And then you get to the Washington game. Game 3 is when things got really, really concerning. If you weren't already concerned after Game 2, you were definitely concerned in Game 3. They lost 6-4, and they were up 4-2 in this game. They were up 4-2. And I'm pretty sure they were up 4-2 heading into the third. Things were looking good. And then this team just crumbles and lets in 4 goals and loses. And it was I didn't watch the game because, if I'm not mistaken, it was Monday. So, it was it Monday? Oh, yeah, it was Monday. So, I can't keep track of days. It was Monday, so I actually didn't watch any games that night. But, yeah, still very concerning. And apparently afterwards, the locker room was in straight silence. The team was just like, Jesus, another blown lead. And apparently they held a player-only meeting after that, where I imagine guys like JT Miller and Bo Horvat, they went in there, told the team that we need to get it together. We need to get our chemistry back together. And when Bruce Boudreau, the new, not really new anymore, but the current coach of the Vancouver Canucks, said that this team looked mentally weak and afraid to win, which was concerning after that third game. Now, heading into Game 4, I actually thought that they would win against Columbus. I really thought they would. But they lost 4-3 in overtime. So they got a point, but they still lost. They were up 2-0 and 3-2 in that game. They are the first team in NHL history to blow multi-goal leads in each of their first 4 games and lose. So, not that good of a stat to have, I'm going to be honest. And it really is concerning when you look at a team like Vancouver with a lot of talent. So, I'm going to look at their player stats. I only listed 4 players here. I listed 4 players that people are blaming. People are maybe saying, oh, it's their fault, or players that were leading the team. So, the 2 players that are leading the team right now, Elias Pettersson's obviously leading the way, having a pretty good season so far. With 4 games played, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. Behind him, you have Bo Horvat with 4 games played, 3 goals, 1 assist for 4 points. They aren't the problem. Those 2 guys and a couple of the players on the team aren't the problem. They aren't the problem. And neither is JT Miller. And we need to get this rhetoric out out of the way that JT Miller is the problem in Vancouver. I don't know why it's a thing. The dude is going to be here for 8 years. So people need to accept that he isn't the problem. Miller played 4 games, had 2 goals, 1 assist for 3 points. He's looked solid, but in like some of the reports I've seen, he's called himself irrelevant, and I'm like, dude, you have 3 points in 4 games. Like, that's not horrible. I mean, yeah, he's not performing at the level he did last year. I mean, like, last year he was unbelievable, but like, still, he's still playing to a sizable level. He's only played 4 games, so that's kind of why. I don't know why people are basing it off of that. And then another player that I've seen that looks really concerning is Connor Garland. Garland's looked pretty concerning. 3 games played, 1 goal, no assist for 1 point. And he was scratched in that 4th game versus Columbus. He was a healthy scratch. So that is a little bit worrying there for the forward. As for the goaltending, this is where things get a little bit, yeah, this is not good. Thatcher Demko, his current stats right now are 0-3-0, a 4.48 goals against average, and a .847 save percentage. That is brutal. That is absolutely brutal. Is it Demko's fault? Not entirely. And you're not gonna see me coming in here and slandering him because he's an amazing goalie. But when your team is bad, your stats do tend to be, well, bad. And I mean, it's not entirely his fault. The defense in front of him, I don't really trust it. I'm going to be honest. I mean, like, there's Quinn Hughes. I'm pretty sure he has 4 assists in 4 games. I didn't include him in here, but he's looked all right. But apart from that, I don't see anybody that's really eye-opening to me on that blue line. Like, really. And I think that blue line could be one of the problems. They didn't really pay attention to that too much, and they didn't really, like, take it too seriously. They were like, oh, okay, we signed the Kaiser to a PTO, then you just released him. So, I don't know. It is a little bit concerning. Now, the other question, and this is probably the biggest question, who is at fault? And this is something that I've seen be discussed through a lot of Canucks fans. Who is at fault here? Who is the person to blame? The coach? No, not Bruce Boudreau. I mean, like, to be honest, it's only 4 games in, and Boudreau has tried his hardest. And I mean, the results are kind of showing. Like, they're winning, they're scoring goals and doing pretty good. This team just can't hold a lead, and that's one of the concerning things. Like, when I think of that, I look at the back end, the blue line. Yeah, like I said, Demko. I don't blame Demko, not really. I mean, like, there is some fault there. There's definitely a lot of inner confidence that's been lost from Demko. He probably feels a lot of demons right now and might feel a little bit snake bit, but like, it's not his fault. It really isn't entirely his fault. And I mean, that could just be like the rule to never blame the goalie, but I don't think it's his fault. JT Miller, I don't even know why anybody's remotely blaming JT Miller for this. There's some people who are. Miller might be blaming himself for it. I don't think it's his fault at all. I think he's played okay through the first couple of games. It's just Vancouver's had a rough start, and that's the other thing I have here. Just a bad start? Absolutely. I think it is just a bad start. Because when you look at the past couple of seasons, and I've seen this for a couple teams, and I know the teams I'm going to compare them to right now in a second is going to be a little bit concerning. You're going to be like, what? Norek, they're not even on the same level. But they definitely play a role. Okay, so first off, Colorado. Last year, Colorado started off pretty rough. They were 0-4-1, if I'm correct. They took them a while to win games. Tampa, this year, is 1-3-0. They lost to a team that they probably shouldn't have lost to in Philadelphia, I'm being honest. But like, it's all just a bad start, and it's honestly what I think it is. This team has talent, and it's really showing it. They're able to score. That's definitely one thing they can do. They can score. The only thing that's concerning is the back end. That's the one thing that, and I gave my blatant concerns in our season preview, but I think honestly that could be what has happened. And then another thing to throw in here too. They have every chance to turn around. They have absolutely every single chance to turn this season around. And they're only 4 games in. It's not like they're 13 games into the year and they're like 1-12 or some of the ridiculous thing like that. Yeah, there's teams that have started off really bad and then they picked up the pace. And I think Vancouver has every chance, when you look at their upcoming schedule, to pick up the pace. And let me say this as well. Their first 4 games and their next game as well have all been on the road. This team has not been at their home opener yet. And one thing that I've noticed when I was looking at their schedule was that every single away game, including the preseason, this team has lost. Every away game and every home game that this team's played, which obviously that only means preseason, they've won. And I mean, preseason and regular season are like different things. But yeah, they still kind of do connect. And I think it does play a role. They are on the road here. So I think that will play a role. Now, their next couple of games, they're away against Minnesota. That's their final thing for this 5-game road trip. Then you have a 2-game homestand. You verse Buffalo. They've looked pretty good so far. I will give it to Buffalo, but I think Vancouver should beat them. You have Carolina. That could be a little bit difficult, but you know what? If the Canucks play well from Buffalo, maybe they can build off of it in Carolina. Then you go to Seattle, which, I mean, that's not that far away. Let's face it. That's not that far away from Vancouver. But still, Seattle is obviously still a building team. Vancouver could have a chance of beating them. And then obviously you go back home to end off the month of October against the Pittsburgh Penguins. They have chances here to turn this season around. If they even just get a win against, like, I don't know, let's say Buffalo. Like, if they just win one game against Buffalo, I think that definitely changes the momentum, and maybe those next couple of games won't be as bad as we thought. This team needs just that one win to really build up the pace, and I think they honestly could go on a run. And that's honestly what I believe. So are people overreacting? Absolutely. I think people are definitely overreacting at where the Canucks are at right now. It's not that big of a deal. And I know. Blowing like 5 different leads in 4 different games is not ideal. It's definitely not the most ideal thing in the world. But I still think that this team has the talent to turn this season around. Now, ignore the TikTok that I made saying that they're mid. I definitely didn't jinx y'all. I'm sorry. But yeah, anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching. For us personally, I really do appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe down below if you are new. Canucks fans, let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear them. And anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.